So yeah, okay. So Naomi, I was doing a little research on you, checking out your website, and I see that you've been a licensed massage therapist, you are a yoga teacher, and you specialize in social work as well with a trauma-informed focus. And you are going to teach a class soon, which is based around the trauma-informed practice with herbalism as well. So I'm really excited to learn more about you. And if you don't mind telling me some of your history there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again for having me and offering for me to teach this class. I'm super interested in trauma informed practice, i.e., I'm a nerd about it.
We love nerds.
Yeah. So I started out as a licensed massage therapist. I still practice massage. It's been about over 15 years that I've
Wow.
been practicing massage. Um, and that was kind of actually my introduction into trauma informed work without really knowing that that's
Mm.
what was happening
Hmm.
for myself and my clients. Um, I started recognizing how body work helped me heal from my trauma.
Hmm.
And then as I started, noticing that working with my clients, um, and started to think about, well, how can I feel more competent in this
Mm.
regard? So the first book I was exposed to that related body work and trauma was Peter Levine's Waking the Tiger, and he talks about how trauma is processed in the body, um, and how we as humans don't really process trauma
Mm.
with our body. We very much intellectualize it,
Yeah.
um, and so then I geared towards getting certified in yoga,
Hmm.
um, and through that, it was like a whole nother avenue of learning how to process trauma through my own body, and then again working with my clients, how do I create that space for them to also process, whether we recognize it as trauma or not, just our history, our past
Yeah.
experiences, through our breath and our body, through that awareness, um, in a safe way, not in a prescriptive way.
Mm. Hmm.
So through massage and yoga, and then I did the community herbalist training with
Hmm.
Emily, and that just the way that she weaves in these practices, it's just kind of like learning more and more how to look at this holistically. um, and then it got to a point where I'm like, I really want to feel more competent in trauma informed practice, so that you know as a practitioner, my main goal is do no harm. And
Yeah.
so more and more education. Give me more.
So yeah, you got a master's degree, did you not? In
Yeah. So then I went and got my master's in social work.
hmm.
I'd already gotten an AA, and so I was able to thankfully jump into the bachelor's program at UCF, and then got my master's at UCF, and now I'm a registered clinical social worker intern in the middle of working towards getting licensed. And so I work in community health.
Mm.
Um, so I'm wearing a lot of different hats right now.
I
So
see that.
part-time community health, and then
Yeah.
part-time private practice for massage and yoga, doing workshops like this. And so that's been a huge piece of the journey, is kind of seeing these two extreme but also related spectrums of health and wellness, from being in like the I like to say preventative health rather than alternative health, preventative health
Yeah.
practices, to community health, um, it's been a big eye opener about what kind of barriers people are up against.
Absolutely.
And so again, how do I continue this work and make it accessible to people and digestible?
Mm. To the people who need it, right, the most,
Yeah,
and in a way that they can take it and integrate
right,
and use it immediately, right?
right. Yeah, because even
Yeah.
people who come to me for, counseling, really starting with the basics of body awareness, where I let them know I'm a yoga teacher and I can incorporate those practices, but we're not going to like get on the floor and do down dog.
Yeah.
Like we're just going to start with like noticing the breath, noticing
Mm.
as you're talking about this, what do you feel happening in your body? Because and this is something I'm kind of starting to like be able to put more words to, is that, and somewhere, where I've come from, I used to think that my feelings came from my brain,
Mm.
but
Mhm.
realizing thoughts come from my brain, feelings live in my body. When I
Yeah.
feel angry, I feel it in my body. I'm not, it's not here. Like
Yeah.
I might have a thought that, oh,
Absolutely.
how dare they, whatever,
No, I
but
hear
the
you.
feeling of anger is in
Yeah.
the body. And so really helping people kind of build that awareness and that
Mhm.
connection.
Wow, that's very important. And I've actually, I've heard, I'm completely obsessed with like self-development work and things like that. So I've actually heard one of the authors that I read talking about when they're facing that barrier or that limitation, that nervousness or the fear, to stop and think about and bring mindfulness to where they feel it in the body.
Yeah.
So like, was it your cheeks flushing in your
Mhm.
face? Was
Yeah.
it in your chest? Do you feel a tightness in your chest? Yeah, I think that's yeah, very important. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I do have a question about where your kind of aha moment was about the body and holding trauma, or how
Mm.
it processes through the body, especially as a massage therapist and yoga teacher.
Yeah.
Yoga came after the massage therapy, yeah? Okay.
Yeah. Yoga came after. And um it was through massage and having the joy and privilege of working with other massage therapists in the field who are very intuitive, and
Mhm.
and really the aha was myself being on the table and
Yeah.
having emotions come up and
Mm.
feeling my body processing old traumas. That's really been the aha, and recognize, like, for myself, recognizing that connection and then being like, I want to share this with everybody.
That's great, lighting that fire.
Yeah.
I'm really, I enjoy that you are not just picking up all these different modalities of healing, but that you're doing so through a specific kind of passion or purpose, with the trauma informed work,
Hmm.
um, which I think makes it so much more, hmm, gosh, what is the word I want to find right now? Um, I think that when you have that specific purpose, it brings, it fortifies how you integrate your work immediately,
Yeah.
rather than kind of abstractly gathering information and not having a specific purpose necessarily
Correct.
besides gathering information.
Correct. Yeah.
So wow, that's really valuable, I think, in your
Yeah.
study, that you're ready to serve. It is the service that really makes
Absolutely.
what you do, not just palatable, but immediately serving and bringing what you find into your service. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I do see
yeah.
it as a service. Um, and more so as I go on, because I started out doing massage when I was 20 And, you know, at the time, you know, there's so much we learned through those years.
Absolutely.
And kind of stripping away the ego. You know, and there's a big strive for myself to get it right, to find the answer, to give the answer to other people, to know everything about everything. And
and thus is the 20s.
And so now it's like, oh, there's no answer. And what a relief. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't have to find the answer because the answer is different for everyone. And I'm just here to help facilitate that space and safety first for the other person to find what that is for themselves. And so I really try to boil everything that I do down to cultivating compassion. That's kind of where I'm at personally and professionally, is like really just like, what is my purpose here? What is my goal? And right now it's really just developing compassion towards my clients, for myself, helping them cultivate self-compassion, for being right where they are.
Yeah, that's very important. I think that really resonates. I think there's such a pattern of, even looking at my own personal experience of, you know, maybe being aware of a trauma or pattern, and then, you know, going and turning around and like kind of beating yourself up for it.
Yeah.
So that compassion is so important to bring into your own, having patience with where you are in order to like quit that pattern of kind of self-destructive feelings and thoughts. So that's very important.
Because the root of trauma is typically shame.
Yeah.
And lack of feeling. Trauma takes control away. In a traumatic event, your control has been taken away. Your choice, having a choice in the matter, is taken away. And so really trauma work is oftentimes grief work, and grieving the loss of that control that you didn't even have at the time, oftentimes because trauma comes from childhood where you just had no choice in the matter. Or an event that was violent that you had no choice over. So yeah, it's a lot of like grief work and cultivating compassion and forgiveness for yourself. Not even so much anyone else, just for yourself, of recognizing your own humanity.
Yeah. You probably, there were some keywords, and I'm guessing you've also read some Brene Brown.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, don't you? I just absolutely love her. Everything she's written. I really enjoyed her audiobooks as well, because she's such a wonderful speaker.
Yeah, she's such a good storyteller.
God, I just love her.
Yeah.
Okay. There's something very specific that I very much resonated with when I was reading about you. And you speak about being able to create boundaries to be able to do the work for healing and empowering yourself. And I just wanted you to speak on that kind of creating healthy boundaries portion, because I'm personally very interested in that. It's something I focus quite a bit of thought and energy into as well.
So thanks for asking. I nerd out about boundaries.
So do I. We have to be friends after this.
Yes,
Will you be
definitely.
my friend?
Will you be my new best friend? So again, the root of trauma is often it's an event that was outside of your control. It takes choice away. And so, you know, and I'll get in depth in this in the workshop, but you know, there's different types of trauma. There's acute, there's chronic, there's secondary. And I'll say this loosely, don't quote me on it, but most people who have trauma have experienced chronic trauma. It's trauma over time, oftentimes childhood trauma. living in an environment where it's consistent daily occurrences. It's not just one-time event. And so in those situations, we as children learn to try to maintain that connection with our caregivers at all costs. And that can even mean not having boundaries, emotional boundary, physical boundary, mental boundary. And the fact is we never learn what those are.
Yeah.
So I really focus on kind of educating. I wouldn't say even re-educating, because again, many of us don't even know what boundaries are.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, and from personal experience, boundary was a scary word, because when I heard boundary, it meant disconnection from the person that I wanted to be connected to.
Interesting.
So that meant giving up myself completely just in order to maintain that connection.
Wow.
And so learning that is not good for me, and I need to have boundaries to love myself, to take care of myself. That's and so in turn,
I just say that again. Say that little part just one more time. So good.
You know, I say these things and then they're out of my head. I don't know what I said.
Yeah.
So, and also learning that if let's say, you know, like when I was younger, I'd notice like I would give and give and give and give, and then I'd get really angry and resentful, and then I'd snap at people and just be an icky person to be around. And so it started to click, like, oh, if I don't take time to myself, and I'm no good to other people, like, and I'm just snapping, and I'm unpleasant to be around, and that's not good for the people around me, and that's not good for our relationships. So that, you know, that alone, that little piece of like, oh, I got to refill my cup. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. So I work a lot on not only teaching my clients, whether they're massage, yoga, counseling, about boundaries, but also like practicing them in that space.
Yeah.
And confronting the uncomfortability with setting a boundary. And that's what we're going to talk about a lot in the workshop, is how to hear no and be able to say no, but especially how to hear no.
On both sides.
On both sides.
Yeah, it's very important.
Especially as practitioners, to be able to be okay with creating a space where the client feels safe enough to say no, whether that's like, no, I don't want to do that, or I'm not ready for that, and be okay and not take it personally.
Yeah. The two sides of not for just for yourself, but if you are in service to another person, right, that they feel safe enough to be able to speak their truth and set that boundary for themselves. So that's in that kind of line of consent.
Yes.
Yeah. Being able to set up a healthy container.
Yes. And you know you've done a good job when your client is okay telling you no.
That's gold right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gold. Yeah.
As a yoga teacher, I have really learned to pride myself when a student says, no, that doesn't feel good. I'm like, oh, yes, thank you. Yay, you're listening to your body.
Wow. Yeah. It's not about, you know, I was just having this thought the other day, but it's not about being right, because what is right for you isn't necessarily right for everyone or another person or at the specific time.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for everyone to kind of understand.
Yeah.
And be mindful of as well.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, I'm doing a lot of work around decolonization, and that is such a big piece of decolonization, is that there are so many different perspectives and ways of finding our own center, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And so that could be using herbalism or yoga, or going for a run, or taking a nap, or, you know, like,
Yeah,
it's not one
100%.
specific thing.
So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you have something coming up. So specifically for the class coming up, what are some things you can share about tuning that into an herbal practice?
So we aren't going to talk too much about herbs and herbalism.
Yeah.
It's really just going to be a lot of education around what trauma is, what it isn't. A lot of what I notice when I do these workshops is what it brings up for the participants, because this affects all of us. And so it's really just kind of building that container of being able to explore what trauma is and recognize for ourselves what ahas we get out of it, how we feel as we're talking about it, because talking about trauma can be triggering.
Yes.
Most of the time, because it makes us look at like, oh, I didn't realize that that was trauma. I didn't realize that that experience I had is labeled as trauma. And oh my God, I've had these I've had 5 out of these 10 symptoms that listed of trauma, and I didn't realize that's what it was. And when we look at, you know, the mental health diagnoses and the DSM, and when you start looking at them through this trauma lens, realizing, oh my God, these are all results of trauma. So what we're really going to get into, like, in practice, is like boundary setting and communication.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So that when you're in a consultation with a client, you have that foundation to use.
Okay. Is it something also, would this workshop also be good for someone who is also looking to heal their own trauma, maybe not necessarily applying it to others as much?
I think it's a good introduction to understanding trauma for yourself.
Okay.
And then using that information to inform yourself on, how do I move forward? In what way do I, if I want to continue exploring this, does that mean finding a mental health counselor? Does that mean getting body work?
Okay.
Going to a trauma-informed someone or the other.
Okay.
So no, I can't say that would help heal, but it's a good introduction of kind of understanding the foundation and
steps
towards healing, because it's a lifelong healing process. Yeah.
Well, I think everything's kind of like a lifelong process when you really dig into anything.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I'm absolutely delighted to speak with you today.
Yeah, no, I'm so excited. I'm afraid to say more because then I might tangent into a whole nother thing.
Well, in that case, please do join us for what is the actual technical name of the class? Trauma-informed practice for herbalists. It will be virtually online March 13th. There will be 3 CEUs available for CE credit seeking students. I think this is beautiful, wonderful work you're doing, and I appreciate you sharing it with us. We will have the links below for you to join the class, and it will be recorded for our on-demand library after. So it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you and speak with you, and I am looking forward to us connecting in the future as well.
You too, Mila. Thank you. In fact,
wonderful.
One last thing I did think of, even if you're not an herbalist, I think this workshop will be super helpful, because again, we're not going to go do too much into herbalism. It's really just about how to be trauma informed and have a trauma informed practice. So really any modality or career path profession you have, I think.
So massage therapists,
Yep. Yoga
nurses,
teachers,
anyone, yoga
nurses. Yep.
teachers, yeah,
Yep.
all those healing modalities, I think is very important.
Yeah.
Well, again, I thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. You have a wonderful day.
You too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.